What's going on to all my movie fans out there, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are here to discuss the new DC Universe film by the name of Black Adam, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as the lead character. Now the question is this the game-changing DC Universe film that has been marketed as for the last few months, and is it worth your time? We're going to be discussing that and so much more in today's spoiler-free review. But before we get into it, if you all haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell. That way you can stay up to date with all my daily content. And also give me a follow on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. All those links can be found in the description of this very video. We're speaking of the video. If you enjoyed today's commentary, give the video a thumbs up as well as share this review. But more importantly, share your thoughts on Black Adam in the comments. Were you excited for it? Once you've seen it, what'd you think? Let's talk about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Black Adam. Let's talk JSA. Let's talk action, story, pros, cons. Do you want more from this character and from this universe? Let's talk about it in the comments below. So before we get into my thoughts here, just thought it was important to share with you all where I stand as a DC fan. So if you know me, you know when your boy bleeds, it bleeds DC colors. I like Marvel, I enjoy Marvel, but I'm a DC fan. But in the same sentence, I can also acknowledge, especially from the birth of the DCEU in 2013, it's been a rocky road, to say the least, right? There's been some hits, there's been some really bad misses, and there's been some terrible decisions from directors and writers and upper management. And I say all that to say this: through all the stuff, your boy remains hopeful. And with that being said, going into Black Adam, as far as my knowledge goes, very limited comic book knowledge from the character. I have some insight on the character from playing Injustice 1 and 2, but most of my knowledge of Black Adam comes from 2010's DC animated film by the name of Superman and Shazam and the Return of Black Adam. And it was in that film, which, by the way, that film's on HBO Max. I would recommend you all give that a watch. But in that film, you get the origins of Billy Batson becoming Shazam, his relationship with Superman, but more importantly, you see Black Adam. And in that 35-minute animated film, it truly shows you how savage of a character Black Adam is. So let's just start my review off with that. And that's the lead character, Black Adam, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and his performance. I've always been a fan of Dwayne, and I say this because I used to watch wrestling growing up, right? And I used to watch him in WWF, and in particularly his earlier days of being a part of the Nation of Domination, and seeing him go heel and seeing how seamless it was for him to be hated by the audience, for me at points, right? But also cheering for him and rooting for him and seeing ultimately him become the superstar that he is, the most entertaining man in entertainment. But again, going back to seeing him make that switch, this is the first time that we've seen The Rock as an actor be the lead of a film as the villain, or as this film posed it, as the anti-villain. And the question is, does he deliver? For me, I thought he knocked it out of the park, y'all. Now, I do believe the film did a good job of giving us a proper origin story, explaining where his rage comes from and his philosophy on life, or better yet, how he takes away the life from his enemies, and tying it back to his savageness and his brutal ways of killing. There is no doubt that he is menacing, and the force that he has, there's very few that can go toe-to-toe with Black Adam. But again, I want to go back to Dwayne Johnson. I thought he had a really solid performance, y'all. I thought that he had the charm, the charisma that we know he has, but also 100% delivering the justice to this character and being the champion and championing for this character for almost 15 plus years. So for me personally, I thought Dwayne was great in the role, but we got to talk more about some of these performances. In particular, this puts a big smile on my face, especially being a DC fan that I am. The first live-action big screen adaptation of the JSA, the Justice Society of America. I want more. Give me more of these characters. At one point in the film, it almost feels like it was their film, which I wasn't mad at it, but I want to highlight the standouts of the JSA, starting off with Pierce Brosnan as Kent Nelson, aka Dr. Fate, the original Dr. Fate, and this man was incredible. I really enjoyed his portrayal of the character, from the visuals that come with the character, from the story they gave him, the human side of this character. Pierce was fantastic. Of course, we know him as Bond, and man, he could play a superhero, and he played it so well in this movie. Also, I have to talk about my man, Aldis Hodge as Carter Hall, aka Hawkman. He demands your attention. He plays the leader. He's stoic. He's the hero. He plays it perfectly in the back and forth that he has with Black Adam, and his brotherhood and this friendship that he has with Dr. Fate. I thought Aldis, this kid's amazing, man. As a kid, he's a grown-ass man. He's older than me, but he is a star, y'all. He is really fantastic in this film, and I don't want to neglect the newbies on the team. I'm talking about Cyclone and Adam Smasher. I thought they were fine. They brought more of this different energy to the team that's kind of establishing this world, and they also bring some of that comedic relief to the team. So they weren't terrible, but they just weren't standouts for me like Dr. Fate and Hawkman. So bringing it over to what you come to see this film for, and that is the action and the visual effects. And to me, the visuals were very clean, and they didn't feel incomplete like some of the other comic book movies that we got this year. The action was very entertaining and plays out beautifully on the big screen. I'm talking seeing Black Adam's super strength and his super speed. I'm talking about Hawkman's force and his flight. Dr. Fate having his out-of-this-world powers and spells. They were all captured beautifully on the big screen. I really was entertained with those elements. And last thing I want to mention before we get into my criticisms, I think the film, to me, did a good enough job of building the world and establishing itself within the DC landscape, and particularly the heroes and the villains. And this isn't a spoiler because she's in the trailers, Amanda Waller, and how she fits into this narrative. As a DC fan, I was happy to see some cohesiveness, see some connectivity that we really haven't gotten, or not being that it's forced like we've seen in previous films like a BVS, for example. So one more thing that I'll mention before we get into the cons. I won't spoil it, obviously. Obviously, the cat's kind of been on the bag for almost a few weeks now, but I'll just say this. When it comes to the mid-credit scene, being that your boy's a DC fan, let's just say your boy has a lot of hope for the DC universe moving forward. And that's all I'll say. Getting into my criticisms here. Visuals and action and the fight sequences can really bring a lot to the table, but it only goes as far as just being entertaining. And that's where my criticisms come out. I got to talk about the story, and the story had a lot to be desired, mainly focusing on the Kahndaq story and the characters that were attached to it. When you have these type of bigger than life type of characters, and when the film focuses on the more grounded elements of the story, you really have to have great performances, great chemistry, compelling stories. And unfortunately, when we get to those groundedness and those human characters of the story, they were the weakest elements of this film, in my personal opinion. Understanding, though, that the film's messaging and the themes of being oppressed and wanting freedom and having their champion fight for them, it all sounds good on paper, but unfortunately, the execution wasn't there. And there's a lot of things lacking. For example, the mercenaries taking over the town and controlling the town. That stuff to me wasn't fleshed out enough and was really kind of underwhelming. I also found the human stories of the professor and her son and her brother and how they fit into the narrative was just really weak. The chemistry wasn't right. The jokes felt forced. And whenever the film would put their plot in the forefront, it just slowed down the momentum of the film. Now, pivoting over to the marketing, not showing you this other threat that the film has to offer. And I understand why they did that. There is another quote-unquote villain of the film that I just felt like was very underdeveloped. And I understand why they didn't put that element into the marketing, because it just was extremely uninteresting and it felt like it was an afterthought. And better yet, it felt like to me like the writer said, you know what, we got to have Black Adam fight someone else that's just as threatening or menacing, and it just felt, like I said, like an afterthought. And I thought that the villain of the film was just visually didn't look good, and also, like I said, was very uninteresting in my opinion. But last thing I want to mention when it comes to the third act, there is definitely a lot of fun visuals, there's a lot of action going on, but it almost felt like there was two endings going on at once. And without diving into the minutia, the film takes away an important character for a little bit of the third half of the film, and then the way that they bring the character back just didn't feel organic. It felt like it was just kind of like, again, an afterthought of the film. And one more thing I want to talk about here, I really think the film would have benefited more on focusing more on Black Adam and this whole fish out of water angle. And also, I'm not going to lie, JSA, give me more, show how they operate in this world. I wanted more of those elements of the film. So before I give you all my score and let you know if this film is worth checking out, I want to thank you all again for clicking on this video. Just a friendly reminder to like, share, comment, subscribe. Overall, Black Adam is a fun and entertaining, visually stunning, action-packed film with a not so compelling story. And this isn't a game changer in my opinion as it's been marketed as, but it has the potential to grow into that in the future. future, and I want to see more of these characters, and I want to see more of these characters in the future of the DC Universe. With that being said, I'm going to give Black Adam a solid 3.5 out of 5, and I recommend you all give it a watch. Again, I would say if you really haven't followed a lot of the DC films, this will be a solid entry to kind of get into the world and hopefully get more of these characters. If you're not a fan of some of the other DC Universe films, I don't think this is going to change your perception of what's to come in the future. But for me, I want to see that future, especially that mid-credit scene. So I'll just leave it at that. 3.5 out of 5. That's my thoughts of the film. Let me know yours in the comments once you've seen it. Again, from your pros, your cons, do you want more? What did you enjoy the most? What was your favorite standout moments? What didn't work for you in the film? Let's talk about it in the comments below. If you stuck around to this point of the review, I thank you so much. Put in the comments, hashtag DC future is looking bright, and also put the little thunder emoji in the comment section. Again, y'all, I appreciate the support. Just before you all leave, again, just to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Come and join the community and hit that notification bell. You all are awesome. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, come and join the community. Check out my other reviews from this year. Check out my most recent review, and we'll catch you all on the next breakdown.